Have you ever experienced anything weird or kind of creepy? Consider sending it my way. Just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send your story my way. And of course, thank you. I have an incredibly trivial story that happened about 2 weeks ago, and while it is trivial, it absolutely ruined my day. I work at an office that has a lot of people in it, now that we're no longer worried about COVID, I guess. And because there are a lot of people there, it can be both loud and awkwardly quiet at seemingly random intervals. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like my office workers will get it. Sometimes people just don't know when to shut up, and sometimes it just feels weird to have that many people within 20 feet of you and nobody's saying anything at all. To combat this, I have an incredibly cheap pair of earphones that I bought at Walmart that I keep at my desk at all times. When I say cheap, I think I paid like $12 for them, and while they aren't the best, they do the job good enough for me. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was sitting at my desk and listening to music on my phone when I got a notification for an impromptu meeting with a couple of my department heads. These meetings are usually just quick conversations about our current projects and what needs to be done by what day. So, they're not long and not really a huge deal. I stood up, I took my earphones out, tossing them onto my desk, and I got hit with the really weird feeling of, they're not going to be there when you get back. I don't know why I thought this. I had never had this thought, nor the notion that they would ever disappear or be stolen from my desk, because they're cheap and kind of gaudy. I stood there for a moment and debated taking them with me to make sure they didn't disappear for whatever reason, but I had to make a quick decision, because I needed to get to the meeting. I decided to grab them, open the drawer on my desk, shut them in the drawer, and then lock it, figuring that that would keep them safe. I then went to the meeting like normal. When I came back, I set my system back up and got to the point where I was ready to get back to work when I got hit with that really weird feeling again. Except this time, I knew they were gone. I tried to open the drawer, but it was still locked. That gave me a little bit of mental relief for a moment because that meant that there was no way they would be gone. I unlocked the drawer and went to get them, and sure enough, they weren't there. I tore the drawer apart to find them, but they were 100% not there. They weren't in that drawer, the other drawer, nor were they anywhere on my desk at all. For all intents and purposes, my cheap, crappy earphones were completely and totally gone. I have no idea how or why they vanished, nor do I know how or why I knew they were going to vanish, but I will say that I am beyond upset with myself for not just cramming them in my pocket when I went to the meeting. What's worse, I really don't see how it's possible that they disappeared. The drawer requires a key to unlock and lock. You can't open it when it's locked, obviously, without my key. There are only 2 people that have the keys, myself and the facilities manager, and he has a copy of every key. There would be no reason for him to come down to my desk specifically, open it, take my crappy earphones, and then relock it. I mean, I know for a fact this man makes more money than I do, and he can afford better earphones than $12 Walmart skull candy earphones. I guess I just have to accept that the universe, or the Matrix, decided I no longer needed those cheap earphones. So it took them from me. Which sucks because now I have to go buy new cheap earphones. my glitch in the Matrix story happened about a year or so ago. It's kind of a shorter series of events, and I haven't told many people about it, but I see it fit in this instance. So, back in 2021, on a random day of the week, which I don't remember, I was doing my makeup sat at my vanity in the morning. I'm a makeup artist, so that's usually where I am. Important detail to keep in mind is that my makeup vanity faces opposite my window to the backyard, so with my curtains rolled up, I can see a majority of my backyard. I also happen to have 2 tiny storage sheds right outside my window. That morning, about a half hour into my makeup routine, I saw my mum walking outside towards the shed located closest to my room. I wondered why she was going to that shed specifically, as it's my dad's shed with tools and things in it to cut the grass. While I was quietly observing, I saw her open the steel latch of the shed. She proceeds to go inside for a while, and then comes back out with nothing. I thought maybe she needed something, and my dad may have told her where to look for it. About a good 20 seconds passed when she came out. She closed the door but didn't lock it, which means that she probably needed to go back there later, but that rarely happens. Anyway, cut to later that day, my curiosity got the best of me. So I asked her what she was doing in the shed that morning. To my surprise, she said that she never went to the shed at all, and I told her, "You must have forgotten that you did, because I saw you right outside my window this morning in Dad's shed." She kept telling me she never went in there, and we were going back and forth arguing about it. I was entirely convinced that she did, knowing exactly what I saw that morning. My mom, somewhat trying to believe and wrap her head around what I was saying, decided that the best option to figure this out would be to go and check that the shed was in fact locked in her defense. As we both went outside, we heard the quiet tin bangs that usually occur when the shed doors are open and the wind moves them. As we walked to my dad's shed, she goes to pull the latch and, what do you know, the shed door was open. It felt relieving that what I saw was in fact proven for itself in that moment, but that quickly changed when my mom realized what I was saying must have been right. We didn't know how to explain it when telling my dad about it, and even between ourselves discussing it. I believe it was some kind of glitch, or at least that's what it felt like. But that's my glitch in the Matrix story, so thank you for reading. So, lately, I've been hearing a lot of stories about breathing underwater. This is mine. When I was about 8 years old, I took swimming lessons. One of our lessons consisted of going as far down as you could into the deep end, which was 12 feet deep. There was maybe about 5 or 6 of us doing this. We would hold on to the side of the pool, take a deep breath, and then swim down as far as we can. I remember doing this, but maybe about 6 or 7 feet down, I started to realize I needed oxygen and could not go any further. But, to my amazement, I took a breath and I was fine. Like, I actually breathed in water. There was no pain. It was like I was breathing in air. I opened my eyes and looked around underwater to see if anyone else was seeing this craziness. But everyone else was still doing their own thing and not paying attention to me. I thought I was losing my mind. It was like a dream. I couldn't believe it, but it was happening. As far as I can remember, I went down a few more feet still breathing water. I'm almost certain that I didn't make the whole 12 feet because my ears started popping, so I quickly swam up to the surface. I looked at my swimming instructor, who was standing over us waiting and making sure that we were okay, but I could tell by the look on her face that she obviously had no idea the craziness I had just went through. I still think about this every day, and I'm 27 now. I know that this happened. I don't tell many people because I don't want to seem crazy, but I promise that this happened, and hearing other people share their versions of breathing underwater, it definitely inspired me to share my story. So, thanks for listening. Don't be scared to share your stories. Crazy, unbelievable things do happen, and there are people out there who will believe you. I used to work at a daycare-like place that was fairly understaffed, meaning that we would all have multiple things we would have to do at the same time. We'd have to keep the kids in line, clean the messes, make their food, all pretty much at the same time. And sometimes things would have to be done halfway to be finished later because of that. The important part to note is that we were always busy and running around doing everything all at once. Because we were always going crazy, we had established a few rules with the kids, one of which was no children in the kitchen. This may sound unimportant, but it is relevant, and the kids are all really good about following this rule. This event happened about a month ago. During the day, it was me and one of the other girls that worked there, and she was trying to get the place cleaned up while I corralled the 13 kids that we would have on the daily. Like I said, they are all really good kids, and most of them are perfectly behaved in my opinion. I was playing with them and talking with all of them, just keeping them entertained, when one of the quiet boys said my name. I look over at him, and I ask what's up. He says I need to come there, as in come over to him. I step over, thinking he may have just had an accident and was embarrassed, so I lean down and I ask if he's okay, or if he needs help with anything. He looks me dead in the face and says, "There's no ravioli." I kind of stare at him confused, but just nod and say, "Okay, that's fine." And I confirm that he's okay and doesn't need help. About an hour later, it's lunchtime, and I make the daily mistake of asking the kids what sounds good for lunch. Almost all of them shout that they want ravioli for lunch. At this point, I had already forgotten what the one boy had told me, but as soon as I stood up to go to the kitchen and tell the other employee what they wanted, that same little boy said my name and smiled at me when I looked at him. It was weird, sure, but he's like 4, so I just smiled back and moved on. I walked into the kitchen and told the other employee that we had 12 orders for ravioli. She goes to look in the cabinet, and sure enough, we were out of ravioli. Now, this may not seem weird to a few people out there, but to me it was really strange. We have our groceries delivered twice a week, and we always have ravioli, because it's seemingly a high-demand item for our kids. It's something they can all eat and they all like it. It's pretty much on par with macaroni and cheese for us. We always have it. My coworker went and checked her phone for the grocery order, and come to find out, she had accidentally forgotten to order it the day before, and didn't realize that we were completely out. Now, I know some people will say that he may have overheard someone mention it, or he may have come into the kitchen and saw that there was no ravioli. But we honestly hadn't discussed it, and were both surprised by us being out. On top of that, The lunch items are head height for me, so a 4-year-old boy would not have been able to get to them. I have no honest idea how he knew we were out of ravioli, but he knew. And it was kind of weird. And yeah, I know this is a boring glitch, but to me it's crazy because it makes no sense. Either way, we now have a note on the cupboard to always order ravioli. And I jokingly wrote, "If you think we're out, just go ask his name," on the note. Thankfully, he hasn't given us any more lunchtime premonitions, though. There are 2 times in my life where I had a dream that played out in real life hours after waking up. The first time was 8.5 years ago. It was the night before my 9th birthday, where I dreamt that a girl in my 3rd grade sat to my left at lunch. She said, "I'm gonna sit by the birthday girl today." The day subsequently after the dream, the same exact thing happened. The same girl came to my lunch table, sat to my left, and said the same thing about sitting next to me, the birthday girl. I comment how that was in my dream last night and then went on with the rest of my day. Then, a week ago, a similar thing happened. I had a dream of a certain scene from the show Degrassi: The Next Generation, where a character named Zig stole money from a student council booth, and his friends confronted him about it in the music room of the school. After waking up, it was Labor Day, which meant that I didn't have college classes. So, the night before, I set my alarm earlier than usual so I could finally get caught up on laundry, since I had been busy over the last few weeks. After waking up, I didn't remember the dream at first, but I decided to watch Degrassi in the background while doing laundry. There's a channel on Pluto TV that plays all of the over 300 episodes of the show, chronologically, on repeat. After watching a little bit of the show, I remember the dream that I'd had the night before, and I found it funny that even in my dreams I'm addicted to the show. As the episode goes on, I start to notice that certain plot points are appearing to hint at the scene from my dream. I've watched the show a lot, so I started to piece together that the scene from my dreams was coming soon. Some of the episodes are in 2 parts, so when I started watching about halfway through part 1, I knew what was about to happen in part 2. When I saw the exact scene play out, of the character Zig being confronted by his friends about the money that he took from the student council booth in the music room, I was so shocked. The fact that it was one in over 300 episodes of the show playing within an hour of me being awake, that I saw, it blows my mind. And the fact that if I hadn't woken up early to tend to laundry, then I wouldn't have seen it live on the show. It makes me wonder about what else I may have dreamt that came true without my knowledge, or if I didn't remember the predictive dream. This happened in 2006. I'd bought some footless tights, and I opened the pack on my bed. What fell out of the pack was just the foot offcuts from the tights, and no actual tights. In disbelief, I texted my friend about what had happened, and we had a laugh about it. I waited until the next day to return them, and in the morning, reached into the carrier bag to grab the receipt, with the intention of returning this ridiculously faulty product. It wasn't there, and I was certain that I hadn't removed it, and the other item that I'd purchased, a skirt, was still inside, unworn. I definitely had a receipt, I know this, because when I tried to leave the shop, the alarm went off, because the assistant had forgotten to remove the security tag from the skirt. I presented that receipt and remembered dropping it back into the bag. I turned my room upside down and it was nowhere to be found. I hadn't taken it into any other room in the flat, as it was a shared student accommodation, and I never really used the communal rooms much. Plus, I was living a minimalist existence, so it couldn't have been lost in clutter. So, I accepted that I would be left with just the feet of a pair of footless tights. A few days later, I was vacuuming my room and I pulled up the mat next to my bed, and there, right under it, was the receipt. And it was wet and soggy. I could barely read the writing on it. To my knowledge, I hadn't spilled anything on the rug, and I don't remember moving the rug during my search. None of this has ever made sense to me. I never did get my tights refunded, and I just ended up using them as socks. I have always been a huge fan of Glitch in the Matrix stories. I've read all the posts on the subreddits, and I've listened to several podcasts that cover them, but I've never had something happen to me until today. And I know it may be a really dumb glitch, or not as creepy as what other people have shared, but it's my glitch, and I'm more than excited to share it with you. Okay, so to start it out, I live alone with myself and my 2 cats. My 2 cats couldn't have had anything to do with what happened, and you'll understand why I say that here soon. So, the other day I was off work for a couple of days due to having to take my vacation time, and I decided that I would stay up late watching scary movies. This is always a terrible idea for me, as I freak out easily and get incredibly paranoid about every little sound. During my movie watching session, I did what almost everyone does. I made myself a bag of popcorn. My preference is the extra butter kind, and it's the only kind that I buy for myself. I know that doesn't sound relevant, but it is. Anyways, I make my popcorn, and I'm sitting on my couch eating it from the bag and watching some B-rated horror movie when I hear a loud sound coming from my bedroom, just up the stairs. Obviously, being upstairs, you would think that I would be smart enough to know that it wasn't someone breaking in or anything. But I was still kind of freaked out, and I grabbed my baseball bat that sits by the door and started up the stairs. I get up to my room and see that my cat knocked down my alarm clock, meaning that I was just being paranoid, of course. I take a deep breath, I let out an angry sigh at my cat and decided that I'm going to go to the bathroom really quick while I'm up here and while my movie is paused. I do my business, come out, scold my cat for scaring me. Jokingly, of course, I didn't really scold him or get mad. And I head back down. I get to the couch, sit down, put my hand in the bag of popcorn and put it in my mouth. And lo and behold, the popcorn changed. It was now the cheddar cheese flavored popcorn, instead of my normal extra butter. I know for a fact that it was not cheddar cheese before I went upstairs, because I personally hate the cheese-flavored kind, and I would have noticed at some point before I had eaten half the bag. I take it to the kitchen, and I dump it into a bowl to make sure that the one kernel wasn't just cheesy somehow, or something like that, and the entirety of what is left is bright orange in color, meaning that it is cheese-flavored. I look at the bag it's in, and it's marked as cheese. I grab the box from the pantry, and it is marked as cheese. Now, I know what some people will say. They'll make a comment that I just bought the wrong kind and didn't notice. But that's not possible. One, I am very particular about my popcorn, like I said. But two, This was not the first bag from this box that I had eaten. It was the fourth of 12 in the box, meaning that there were 8 in the box and I had already eaten 3 others. At no point in time did any of the popcorn that I ate taste like cheddar, because again, I don't like that flavor. So, thanks to the Matrix, and I guess because I got up and checked out the sound, I'm now stuck with little over half a box of cheese-flavored popcorn that I thoroughly dislike. I have no idea how or why it happened, but I guess the Matrix just wanted to mess with me in a super mundane way. Either way, that's my glitch, and it's my only glitch at this point. Hopefully nothing else changes, because groceries are expensive nowadays, and I don't want to have to go rebuy things just because our reality's programmers are tricksters. My story takes place in the San Bernardino Riverside, California area, and the crazy thing is, I'm not the only person who has experienced this type of thing in this exact same place. I wouldn't call it a glitch, but I literally stepped into another reality and was consciously aware of it as soon as it happened. To make a very long story as short as I can, I'd made a lot of bad decisions in my life leading up to this point, which led me to fleeing from my anxieties literally across the country. Being from Florida, I escaped to California, thinking that I could just be more comfortable as far away from my home and its stresses that I could possibly get. I didn't really make any better decisions when I arrived in California. Consequently, the people I did meet, let's just say, did not have my health and well-being in mind. I found myself in a house in Riverside where these people were creating gold, literally gold, with borax, a torch, and some other base metals and ingredients. I was absolutely mind-blown because they were actually doing this. At some point, the police showed up, which is crazy, because that's been happening a lot, it seems, everywhere I went. The police would show up, they would ask who I was, and then take a picture of me on their police iPhone. This probably happened at least 15 times, and every time they would not have me in their system. And I don't have an ID, so they take a picture and that's it, only for it to happen all over again and again. The police left after talking at the door for about 5 minutes, but consequently, the other people became hostile towards me, saying that I had been the reason the authorities had shown up. Which wasn't wrong, but I have no idea why. So, I'm now terrified of these people, and I fled the house on foot the first chance I got. I'm walking at a very fast pace, just trying to get far away from the residents as possible, but as the sun begins to rise in the morning, I begin to notice that Riverside now appears to be a literal urban ghost town. Everything is overgrown, all the concrete is broken and cracked, there's no running water anywhere. It was as if people had not been there for more than 20 years. I'm now super hungry and very, very thirsty, but I have no way of getting food or water for that matter. And then I'm struck with a paralyzing fear, because I noticed one of the people I had fled from riding a bicycle up and down the street, looking for me. With no time to hide, I contemplated just straight running away as fast as I could. But I was literally paralyzed from fear, so I just stood there, frozen. He rides up to me holding a takeout box and a Gatorade from some restaurant, or food truck, which was odd, and he offered it to me. He then suggested that I should come with him and everything was going to be fine, and I should no longer worry. I wanted to eat the food so bad, It smelled amazing because all I could think of was chugging the Gatorade as I was super dehydrated. But intuitively, I knew that if I agreed with him and took what he was offering, nothing good would come from it. I stood there in anxiety and managed to mutter a no thank you, and to my surprise, this person simply cracked a crooked smile and rode away. I watched him for a quick second to be sure he was actually leaving, and then I turned in one step, 180 degrees, to head in the opposite direction that he was going, but in that one step, just that quick, I went from the Riverside, California that was overgrown, neglected, and abandoned to I'm now standing in Oceanside, California, right on the ocean among the souvenir shops and bars. People are everywhere. I stood there trying to comprehend what had just happened, and I realized that I was still extremely thirsty. So I start walking to the Oceanside bus/train station, knowing it probably has at least a drinking fountain. As I enter the station, a random man sitting on a concrete ledge looks up at me as I passed him and says, "Hey bro, call your dad. He wants you to come home to Florida." I agreed. I was very much in shock, but the energy was no longer negative. I felt at ease and secure in this moment. After I drank my fill at the very lukewarm water fountain, I immediately walked into the nearest place, which was a Domino's Pizza, to ask to use the phone. She kindly handed me the store phone. I called my dad, and about an hour later I had a ticket for a Greyhound back to Florida. My husband and I drive to the country to buy raw milk every 2 weeks. It tastes better and it's healthier. We got in the car. I was driving. Joe needs 2 big black coffees per day to function, so we stopped at a fast food chain to get them. He drank one down fast. The empty went into the car cup holder, and one was in his hand and he was sipping. It was a nice sunny day and a pleasant 30-minute drive. When we got to the dairy farm, he placed his phone on the passenger seat floorboard and his half-filled coffee cup in the empty cup holder closest to the passenger seat. He got out of the car to get the milk, and his phone rang. It was an important doctor call, so I lunged to pick it up from the passenger floorboard, and, in the process, my hand hit the half-full coffee cup, and it fell over onto the beautiful white leather interior of my Cadillac. I saw the black liquid flow out of the upside-down cup, and I sprung into action. Hurriedly, I picked up the cup and replaced it in the holder. I threw open the driver door to get out and get a towel that I keep in the back seat. Joe was coming out with the milk, and was wondering why I was running to his side of the car. I opened the passenger door, and the seat was utterly, completely, totally clean and dry. I stood there frozen, and he asked why I was freaking out. I saw it go all over the seat. We got in the car. I was amazed. Then I started looking into simulation theory and thanked God for saving my car seat. I did miss the phone call, though. I deliver newspapers very early in the morning. One morning in January of 2020, at about 3 a.m., there was a fair amount of wind and light snow. I got out of my car to bring a newspaper to the porch for a handicapped customer. This customer had a flagpole in their yard, maybe about 20 feet tall. I looked up at the flag and gasped in shock. The flag was sticking out horizontally, which was to be expected because it was windy, as I said, and it had ripples in it, as happens when a flag flutters in the wind. But it was completely still. It was frozen in place. The best way I can describe it is that it was as if you were watching a video of a flag blowing in the wind, and then hit the pause button. Except this was real life, not a video. Then, after I looked at it for about 10 seconds, it suddenly started moving normally again. Was there a glitch in the Matrix that made time stop for several seconds above a certain height from the ground? And to answer any questions, I was not tired, this was not a dream, I don't drink or do drugs, and there was enough light from streetlights in the area that I could see the flag quite clearly. But I don't have any good explanation for this. Before my shift starts, I wanted to go get some gas and a Red Bull, so I went to the gas station by my house that I go to basically every day. Now, this gas station is pretty small, and it's always been the same cashier there every day, or at least every time that I go. I really only go to this gas station out of the sheer convenience of how close it is, because there's something about the cashier that I just can't explain. Every time I make eye contact with him, my fight or flight begins to go off in the smallest amount. This has never happened to me with another person unprovoked. It's just always a super strange experience interacting with this guy. Anyways, I pull into the gas station, and as I'm walking up to the place, I notice the cashier in his car at a pump. I can remember it so well just because I'd never seen him in his car, never mind outside the register area. So I just noted it and that was that. He then pulled out of the gas station basically right after I walked by him. As I was walking up to the store, I remember wondering who the cashier would be, because I had never seen anyone else behind the register. I could see their head and I could tell it was a dude, but his back was to me. As I walk into the store, I look over and lo and behold, it is the exact freaking cashier as normal, and also the same exact person that I saw drive away less than 10 seconds ago. I was immediately freaked out, but I kind of brushed it off and thought that I had to be seeing things, as I'd had kind of a long night before. I grab a Red Bull, hand him a 20, and I say to put the rest on my pump. But when I looked into his eyes, I felt like a deer in headlights. I don't know why. I pretty much forgot what I was doing and just started to walk out of the store after seeing that he put the money on my pump. Walking away without my Red Bull, he goes, "Hey, don't you want the drink you just paid for?" And starts laughing super hard, in a way that just gave me the chills. It wasn't a creepy or abnormal laugh, but the way he did it made me feel like he knew something. Like he was in on a joke, and was not laughing about me forgetting my Red Bull. I can't explain it. I grab my Bull Piss flavored energy drink and I get the hell out of there, freaking the hell out. Because now I'm 100% positive that I saw this dude 2 times in 2 different places in less than 10 seconds. And for some freaking reason, I feel like he knew. So that was this week's Glitch in the Matrix collection, and quite the glitchy collection it was. Most of these stories were submitted directly to me through my website, astheravendreams.com. That was a weird inflection, but I'm going to keep it because that's what we do around these parts. Anyways, most of them were submitted directly to me by beautiful listeners like you. So thank you to each and every single one of you who sent me your story or lets me use their story from Reddit. Please keep sending them to me. I love using them, honestly. And to be honest, it keeps the content flowing, so if you like listening to Glitch in the Matrix stories and have your own glitch, please do consider sending it my way. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and you can join, do thanks, or go to my Patreon for early access to my content for the Patreons and joining, up to several days early, depending on where I am. This one should go up early because I may have jury duty next week, like I mentioned previously, so yeah, I'm trying to get these done quick. Not quick, soon, early. Early is the correct word, whatever. Anyways, let's move on to the word of the week. Okay. On the screen now, and probably a few seconds before now because I screwed up my outro there, is a collection of all the comments of people who left me a word of the week sentence last week. The word of the week was yester. It was more of a prefix. And every single one of these people left me a comment using what I requested. So a huge thank you to every person on the screen right now. And even if you didn't, that's okay. I still appreciate you listening to the video and even getting to this point. So as it is right now, we are at the end of the alphabet. And being at the end of the alphabet kind of makes coming up with a word of the week difficult. So this week I'm going to just let loose and make this the most approachable word of the week possible. If you leave me a sentence with any word that starts with the letter Z, I will use it. Assuming it's appropriate, of course. Inappropriate comments never get used, though I don't usually get those, so. Word of the week is the letter Z. This week's Glitch in the Matrix video is brought to you by the letter Z. 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 Zip, 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 zip sound. So, any word starting with the letter Z gets you on the screen next week. Again, very approachable. All that said, friends, I do hope you have a beautiful day. I do hope I get to see you next week. Until then, remember, you are loved, you are important, you are valid, you are the best you that you can be. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. And until we meet again, I hope that you sleep well.